Good golly, Miss Molly. That ball must love mustaches because it was waxed.
Oh my gosh, that's good.
Mustache waxed. What do you think? B
I love
minus.
it. I no, that's a strong B plus at least. At least.
Episode 64, Coach Ball Game, Coach Chop. And you're in for a doozy today, listener, because you want to talk about the doppelganger, the soulmate of one Chad Chop. We've got him on today. The first time I ever met Chad Chop, I told him, I said, you remind me of my coaching mentor, of the guy that really taught me how to coach. The first guy I ever saw wear a fedora hat on a baseball field. The first guy I ever heard tell the Roberto Clemente story and engage 100 kids. He's on the pod today. If you checked out my socials, I just I read a little snippet of my book, and it was about this guy, Sean Flikke. They call him Flick Money. Went to Stanford, played baseball there, played in the College World Series. So we'll talk about his playing days there. But I just want to ask him, hey man, where'd you get that magic? Where'd you get that magic touch of teaching love of play to kids and really teaching me how to connect with kids as well? So fired up for it. To be honest, he's a great friend, but we've never had deep dives into who taught him to love the game and who taught him to coach the way he does. So it's going to be just a party. The two of you, you're the same person. So positive, so energetic. It's going to be a good day. Yeah, buddy. How you doing?
I'm great. I remember that day when you said I reminded you of your mentor, and you said, we're spitting image of each other, and I said, man, he sounds really handsome.
Yeah. There's going to be it's first team all handsome for sure. Tall left-handed swingers.
Stanford. Yeah, sure.
It just very similar guys.
Speaking of a tall left-handed swing, so we needed an extra body for a scrimmage.
Yeah.
I'll lengthen the story a little bit. We decided that we would do a draft. So I had my two head assistant coaches would coach a team, and then we would have a draft. Well, we have a small roster, so we needed to fill it out. So I said, you know what? I'm going to talk with my agent, but I think I'm going to make the Rammer available for this event. So early draft projections had me going top 3. I slipped to top 4. It was a snake draft. I dropped to 4. But that was a big mistake to let me slip. I went 3 for 4 with a walk, 7 ribbies, 3 doubles. So this is a real high school game. And
yes,
it was great.
Yeah. I know the listener was probably wondering, how did your scrimmage go and how did you do? So 3 for 4 with a walk, 3 dubs, no dingers. Fine.
I wasn't trying to hit dingers. So I tried to tell the kids that. I said, you've seen me take BP. You know I can hit it out of the yard, but what did I do? And the guys are like, you hit it where no one was. I'm like, yeah, you guys were playing me right center with the bases loaded. I took a double to left center. You guys shifted me in the infield. You gave me the 6 hole. I had a rocket in the 6 hole. Like, take what you the game gives you.
You were quietly showing them by example what you want them to do tonight in your first playoff game of the year. This is first round high school playoffs. All I want to know is, are you nervous, Chad Chop?
My wife asked me that, and I said, well, nerves and excited are the same thing. We just label them differently. And if you're not excited, then you should be doing something else. But I'm not nervous. I'm excited. We're prepared. We've played a brand of baseball now for over a month. That's just been spectacular. It's been clean. It's been spectacular, and it's then the mundane, right? We're not doing anything wild. We're just playing catch on defense and throwing strikes and putting the ball in play and running the bases smart. And it's that mundane kind of nature that is special, right? Chuck Noll says champions aren't champions because they can do the extraordinary, but because they can do the ordinary better than everyone else. Yeah. And we've been really, really ordinary at such a high level that I just can't wait. I can't wait. I'm excited for the babies. They're ready. They've worked their tails off. They're so tight knit.
That's a common theme. It keeps coming up. I love the Chuck Noll quote. Joe Madden, we've said it 50 times, do simple better. He made shirts on it. We talked about processing failure better than everybody else. It really seems like if you can do that simple thing, if you can make that play, that that, that 6'3", just ground ball that you can make those ho-hum plays better than everybody else more consistently, you're going to win in the high leverage moments. What kind of preparation have you done to get your boys ready for, this is do or die, right?
Yeah, it was a challenging week last week. So we created those fun things that we talked about just to try to, it's hard to generate adrenaline, right? So if you have 12 days off in between games, it's tricky. So I told the boys on Saturday I'd give us like an A-, a really solid score for the week last week. And then on our practice on Saturday, we started kind of notching it up a little bit. And then yesterday was really good. Got them off their feet early, but did a couple things that I feel like are going to help us prepared, fundamentals that coaches do, the first and third offense and defense and all those things, rundowns, the stuff that win and lose games in the playoffs, right? It's that battle of 90 feet. So we shored up those things. The boys are ready. Noah Miller's on the bump today. He is got, he's got some confidence, and it's founded on like, he's a stud, man. He's like Iceman, from Top Gun. Yeah, he's a confident young man.
Love that. Love to have that in your ace. And I'm sure the listener will be excited to hear how that goes next week. If all goes well tonight, you got a Friday second round game?
Saturday, second round, Saturday. Which will either be against Yuma Catholic again. That's that team that we played a week ago. Great game, one of the better games I've ever been a part of at the high school level. It's either going to be them or another team that's in our region, Tanca Verde, who's had a really good season, and we beat them 2-0. Noah Miller threw a complete game shutout, struck out 10 against them.
Let's go.
I think they had one hit. Yeah,
I like that.
He's flirted with a no-hitter a couple times. He's just got like really high spin rate fastball with a curveball that falls off the table and an elite changeup. I tell you that to tell you this. I drew a walk off him. He tried to throw the 1-2 changeup, and I was auto taking because I knew he was going to go with a changeup, and he threw a perfect changeup. And my catcher, after I didn't swing, he goes, "Coach, how'd you lay off of that?" I go, "There's levels to this stuff, Colin."
Did you actually spit on it? Did you actually spit on it as it crossed your path?
Mentally, yes. But the thing was, Coach, it was a perfect pitch. Had I not been auto taking, I would have swung and missed at it. But I was like, he's throwing the changeup right here. I'm not swinging. So I just had a really good balanced active take. And they're like, "How'd you do that?" And then it was non-competitive curveball 2-2, overthrow fastball 3-2, take your base, take your base.
Wow. Well, last question for you. Will there be a pregame speech as we enter the playoffs here?
No. And I think you asked me this last year going into it. No, because there's nothing that needs to be said other than just play free.
Love that.
Like, boys, play free to fail, free to succeed. Like, we're going to make mistakes today. I can't wait to see how we respond. Play free. Let's go. We're ready. We can't wait. Let's go. Go out there and love each other. Let's get it. It's simple.
This does fire me up a little bit, and it taps into just that. I don't know. Maybe it's the next phase of Coach Ball game, but I do miss the playoffs. And I could see myself enjoying. Okay, first round of the playoffs. I'm coaching a team. I'm so used to just dropping bases down and sandlighting it. But I think there's a play maybe down the road where Coach Ball game sandlots. There's a division of elite travel ball sandlot where there are umpires, and we do have a tournament, and maybe we get the Savannah Bananas involved as well. But I think that would tap into my competitive nature. Right now, golf is the only outlet for that as far as competition goes, but love it. Love it a lot. My weekend it filled up my soul, man. I got filled up in my belly and my mind and my soul. I went to a place called Michigan, a little town called Alpena, Michigan, which is it's on the Mitt, they call it. You got the Mitt right up against Lake Huron, northeast part of Michigan there. About 10,000 people live there, one horse town. But I had a guy named Scott Bays, and his nickname was The Machine. Guess what his dad's nickname was? The Machine. Because back in the 80s and 90s, he would throw BP like a machine to local little leaguers and high schoolers in the 80s and 90s there. So He's the heart and soul of the town. He called me 6 months ago. We've been setting this thing up, planning it. And, these things are $75 a pop. That way I can make it make sense to leave California, fly, hotel, rental car, all the stuff. He wanted to make it 25 a head. So he goes to the to the bar owner that he knows down the street, sponsor. He goes to the Dairy Queen that he part owns, sponsor. He found sponsors all around the town to make it very affordable for this community. What did he want? He wanted this message of Sandlot, that this vibe of joy and the parallel of having fun and correlating to playing better baseball. He wanted that shined, and he just wanted as many kids to come as possible. And then he was hoping the parents would show up, drop their kid off, stay 5 minutes, and then end up staying the whole 3 hours, which most of them did. That was the goal, and it happened. So what a thing for the community. And there was a local high school team that got rained out that day, so they were able to come help coach. And I've seen a lot of high school kids coach camps, and these kids, man, their character was intact. It was a beautiful thing to watch. They were smiling. They were they weren't mailing it in with their phones in hand. They were rocking and rolling, and they were trying to engage these kids because they know all these kids. Everybody knows everybody in a small town. And when I went to a couple meals with my boots on the ground, the machine, he knew everybody by first name. He knew the lawyer. He knew the waiter. He knew the dentist. Everybody knows everybody, and so that's why I gravitate towards these small towns. Is that heart and soul is trusted by many, and we got 105 kids there. 105 kids. Wow. The reaction was really strong. So that'll be a return visit in 24 for sure. But I did what I always do. I gave the nicknames, and I asked questions to each kid that arrived, but had a ton of support. We had to do it indoors. And so there's about 20 guys the day before went over to the indoor facility and put turf on it. I mean, come on.
Let's go.
Right?
Let's go.
Just for the kids. Just for the kids. And then Norm, who owns the Aplex there in Alpena, he said, okay, we're going to shut it down from 1 to 4 so this Sandlot can be played in our facility. And it was just magical. So not an easy place to get to if you're wanting to do a little visit to Alpena, but you take you a flight to Detroit, and then you hop on a little plane, take a few little stops, and you're good to go there. So
that screen froze for about 30 seconds.
Could you hear me?
30-second freeze. No, I know.
Yeah.
But maybe the audio would record on your side, but it froze. Did I freeze? I guess I was just listening.
No, but I did see that it said internet unstable. So can you hear me now?
Okay. Oh yeah, no, you're back. You're back good. But I think it came back when you said take you a flight to Alpena.
Yeah.
But just so you're aware, it doesn't. I think it might play, but just so you're aware when you're editing it. I feel like it almost played.
I'll redo. It's 3, 2, 1. Not an easy. Yeah, 3, 2, 1. They turfed that entire facility out of the kindness of their heart for the kids. Not an easy place to get to, but they did it, and just so thankful for that community. So that was my weekend in Alpena, Michigan. Next stop will be Bainbridge Island, Washington, May 21, baby. Let's go. You fly into Seattle, drive over to a ferry, take the ferry over.
Yes.
So I checked Michigan off my box. That was the first time to the state of Michigan. And now we're going to check off Washington, another state in the book. So keep following Coach Ballgame social media for all the updates. But I just posted the updated flyer of 52 more stops on the 2023 Sandlot Tour. And we got to get Chopper to one of those, man. Got to get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an Arizona Sandlot. I don't have one yet. So
I mean, you have a facility. I mean, it's right here. Literally, it's at the high school. That's your facility. Oro Valley, kissed up against the beautiful Mount Lemmon. I mean, just the Catalina foothills right there. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The sunset, you see that sunset off Mount Lemmon, forget about it.
Man, that's got Jim Nantz voiceover all over it. Speaking of Jim Nantz, my side hustle is Jim Nantz voiceovers. And I had a company reach
Jim Nantz
out.
approved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He approves
Dan Patrick approved. Patrick approved at least.
James Lowe, career hit by pitch record holder at Brown University, and the 2018 Jim Nantz Sound Alike contest winner. That's how I introduced myself. But a company reached out, said, "Hey, we want you to do a Jim Nantz voiceover for our voice message, for our voicemail. When people call in, piece of cake, bang." So it's my side hustle. Another side hustle this Friday, school assembly guest speaker, which that's great. I mean, I think that's right in both of our wheelhouses. I think you were the guest speaker at your alma mater.
Keynote. Yeah.
Keynote. Yeah. Let's go. guest speaker. Keynote, baby. Well, as we wait for our guest today, the Flick Money, there's a couple of Patreon questions. And again, thank you to all our loyal, supportive Patreons. We love you. We appreciate your support, and just keep listening, keep sharing. This puppy's got legs, this podcast, man. People are starting to hear about this thing, and it's all thanks to those first couple listeners that got the word out. But this is from a Patreon supporter and my boots on the ground in Dallas, Texas. How about the mental struggle as a dad and a coach when your kid, say 8, 9, 10 years old, loves to go to practice, but isn't necessarily motivated enough to do extra practice at home, right? Maybe you as the parent or coach, you notice, okay, they love to go to practice. They love the social aspect. They're hanging out with their friends, but they need to work on this outside pitch a little more. They need to work off the tee, or could be exercise, whatever. Not seeing them motivated enough to do the extra work at home. What's your gut reaction there, Chad Chow?
My first thought, and I tell this to our parents a lot, is you can't care more than your kid or your athlete, right? So I think oftentimes, and we've had guests say this as well, mom and dad care way more than son, right, or daughter. So you kind of have to listen to the cues of your son or daughter. Like, what are their passions? What are they gravitating to when you don't force them to go to practice? Even though they have fun once they get there. Maybe it's not the baseball, maybe it's the social interaction. So for me, like, my middle son, Noah, didn't love baseball. So I didn't make him play baseball, right? He loves wrestling. He loves being funny. So we let him kind of drive his passions. My oldest loves baseball, so that's a no-brainer, and he works on his own. My 8-year-old loves baseball and football and basketball, and he does all three of those. And my youngest is an absolute hilarious rascal, and we don't know what he loves yet. But once he tells us with his actions and what he gravitates towards, that's what you really want to kind of water if it's a garden. So for the athlete that loves being at practice but doesn't want to do anything outside of it, they're really young, right? So who cares? That'd be my answer for that age. Who cares? Let them do something they love to do. Now, if you really, really, really want them to do X, Y, or Z, go do it with them. Like, don't just say, hey, go outside and work on it. Hey, let's go outside together. Let's spend some quality mom and dad, or, mom and son, or dad and son time, or daughter. I would say that would be one way to maybe drive it, and make sure it's fun if you're doing that. Make sure there's a competition involved, or maybe there's a prize or something, just to get them. But once again, let your children drive. They'll show you what they're passionate about, as long as it's not just TV and their iPad, because that's not the play, my opinion. And my kids do a lot of that, right? But that's my thought. What's your thought, Coach?
Yeah, the word is, for me, that came to mind was listen, and kind of react to what you're seeing and hearing from your child. they love going to practice, so they obviously love being with their friends, and maybe they love the activities they do at the practice, but not self-motivated enough to go home and do that extra work. Well, ask them, hey, what are you interested in doing while you're home, right? And hopefully that answer is something active. I want to try some swimming. I want to try volleyball. I want to go join a dance team. I want to try something a little bit different. I think that is just as important as extra work in that specialized space. You want them to become a well-rounded athlete. And maybe that means let's go for a hike then. All right. You don't want to work off the tee. Let's go bowling. Let's try that game out. Let's go take a walk. But I think of my daughters, and I can just pay attention to what they're chatting about and talking with their friends about, and I can go to their dance practice, see how much work they're putting in, and then I come home and she's doing flips in the backyard and doing cartwheels and working on her, like, yeah, she's good. I do think when you lay it on a little thick at an early age, 8, 9, 10, that's still an early age. You're getting into some territory where there might be a little burnout going on, or it might cause some tension between your relationship. So I think you got to be for it. I would even argue to be on the other side of it. If they're showing signs of wanting to do the extra work, hey, all right, you can do that extra work, but let's go play a game of chess first. Just kind of dangle that carrot even more. Make them want it more. Now, this could come down to a case of effort and maybe laziness. Right now, we get into that aspect of it where they're just too lazy to go that extra mile, and maybe that's a discussion. When you sense that the reason they're not getting the extra work that they need so they can stop going 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts is caused by laziness, where do you go? Where do you go with that, Coach?
For me, laziness is non-negotiable. So it's like, hey, you're either going to go do that thing or you're going to go for a run. Same deal. My middle son, he had to go for runs around, especially during COVID, because he put on, like, I think it was 30 to 50 pounds, dude. It was he got aggressive with eating and just being really not moving around. There's a word for that, but just it starts with an S. But he wasn't moving around a whole lot, or it starts with an L. He's being lazy, right? And so there are often times where it's like, hey, dude, go for a run. Like, go for a 20-minute run. If you're not willing to go outside and play baseball with your brothers, that's fine, but you're not going to sit on your iPad, and you're going to go for a run. And the really cool thing is, once he kind of snapped out of that kind of the doldrums of COVID that we all had to go through, right? It was a tricky moment in time. Now he's shedded all that weight. He's wrestling. He'll just go out for a run on his own. I remember we were at the field doing baseball, and he came with us, and he just did like 20 laps around the baseball field, unprompted. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? He goes, well, coach said that I got to up my cardio for wrestling. And he just, coach wasn't there watching him. He did that because, he cares and he wanted to be good at it. And now as a 7th grader, he was 3rd in the state, and he only lost to 8th graders, which is crazy. He's got no technique. He just has, his mom's genes of being awesome. And he's got this just kind of, he doesn't know karate, but he knows karate. And I guess that helps in wrestling. So, but no. So if your kid's just going to default to lazy, you don't just get to be like, oh, that's just how they are. No, dude, like let's go. Like, get your bahunkus outside and go do something active. Like, that's a non-negotiable. And it should be a non-negotiable. That's for their mental health too, dude.
Yep.
Get outside, get some fresh air.
Indeed. Yep. And that just comes down to looking through the lens again of, do I need this kid to go 5 for his next 10? Do I need this team to win this game tomorrow? Or is the lens that you're looking through more of, I need them to give 110% every time they step on the field, or I need them to absolutely love and feel the joy of stepping onto that field. That's where that comes in. They'll be less lazy. They will put in the extra work if at an early age you're teaching character and you're teaching the good choices. But yeah, I don't really think you have to. You don't have to push them to do that extra work. They're going to let you know. I want to be like Ian Kinsler, and I want that extra 100 bucket of balls. They will let you know at the age of 8, 9, and 10. So don't sweat it all that much. Let's see what else you can do to make them a more well-rounded athlete and well-rounded person. Because whenever when I was even 13, 14, and I started playing a little fall baseball, man, I missed football. I missed it. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And then, I was doing my lessons during the wintertime. And I'm like, man, I wish I was playing basketball right now. And then spring and summer came, and that was baseball season for me. So I know John Smoltz, he talks about it all the time. Like the multiple sport thing is huge. And I think a big reason why a lot of arms are going down at an early age is the specialization, a lot of high leverage pitches and just doing it too much. So that's that one. Number two, the idea that
I want to touch on,
oh yeah,
Coach.
yeah.
And this is what I love about you and I. There's a lot of things I love about you and I, but we're different in that, right? Like I was extremely specialized.
Yep.
And, it was something where all I ate, drank, slept, breathed baseball only. Right. So, I always remember like kids saying like, what if you don't get a scholarship in baseball? Like you put all your eggs in one basket, or like, it's so hard to get drafted and all that stuff. That also never scared me. That was more like, that's going to scare off a lot of other people. But to me, that's almost like exciting because I know it's hard to do, but I also know I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Like I know that I'm going to do everything in my power, and God put this on my heart at a very young age. But you hear that a lot. And I think that discourages a lot of people. That's okay. For the ones that it encourages, like myself, hey, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, let's go, dude. Like, let's go. And you can do that. A lot of this stuff, you can do it on your own with YouTube and all that stuff where you can get a lot done if you've got that self-motivated, kind of like the opposite of that question we just had, right? Where, I mean, I was going to do something every single day until I reached my goal, period. End of story. I didn't get drafted as a junior. Great. I'm going to invest $500 and buy a soft toss machine and a net. And I'm going to be at the gym 4 hours a day, and I'm getting drafted, and that's those kids that they're out there. And now the other side of that is your awesome experience of being this really, really well-rounded athlete and aligning with John Smoltz. That's powerful too. And that's beautiful. And you get that like absence makes the heart grow fonder effect, which is special. You were never going to get burned out. I was never going to get burned out for a different reason. It was because this was it. Like this was my passion. And to this day, this gives me life. Everyone's like, man, you sure spend a lot of time on baseball. Yeah, that's what wakes me up in the morning.
Yeah.
That's what helps me fall asleep at night, is knowing that I get to be on a baseball field. And there's beauty in that too.
So many different locks that you got to find the keys for. And coaches and parents keep searching for the different keys for the Chad Chop that the only thing you got to do is say, hey, take a 5-minute break from baseball and hit the gym or something, right? Whereas a coach ball game, hey, take 3 months off baseball and go play basketball and golf. And then the kid that maybe is not driven to do anything. Well, what are you driven to do? Let me hang out with you while you do it. Right? I've never done rock climbing, but you seem interested. Let's go try that. Let's spend some quality time together. I think they'll respect you.
Sounds good.
They'll respect you for that. Number two, the idea that the best equipment will make up for a bad swing or help you catch the ball. An example, parents spending $300+ on a glove or a bat that is above their child's current skill level. How would you approach this situation with the parents? What do you got?
Jobs. I mean, my kids can tell you this. I've never bought a bat. I've just never bought a bat. They change the rules every year, right? It's like, oh, BB core, oh, USSSA, every single year. Very smart. Metal bats don't break. You better do something to force mom and dad to buy, because mom and dad will do anything for their kid. That's the reality. That's real. That's commendable. That's why when parents get mad at me about their kid not playing, I sympathize. It's like, I get it. I hear you. That's your son. That through your eyes, they're the greatest thing ever, and they should be. You're playing your role in their story. But like, and if you've got the money and you want to do that, I'm never going to tell a parent not to do it. But two things, like, to me, are just straight up taking advantage of a mother and father's love for their child are showcases. Showcases are a scam, in my opinion, a complete scam. No offense to showcase folks. They're way worse than they are good, in my opinion. And the second is all this equipment that's, state of the line, top of the art, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's why I don't have a really nice road bike. I just have a hybrid. It's like, well, it's going to be harder to work out. That's better than the lightest, a bike that'll float, I don't know. So I'm really against it personally. Like, hey, kid, use a hand-me-down heavier bat than getting the newest thing. But I also, my parents that can afford it and they love doing it, and that's kind of like their love language to their kid. And it's like, I get it. So I see both sides of it, but what my advice is you certainly don't need it. You need to create good habits and have a good swing. If we're talking about bats, you need to create good habits if we're talking about your glove, and use your feet. I love knee drill. Look up Ron Washington's knee drill and do that with your kid with whatever glove you can find. Maybe not a heavy glove, because Bo's always like, my wrist. Cause he's like really trying to lead with his palm with a heavy glove, and that's hard on his little 9-year-old wrist. But no, dude, I'm a huge proponent of, it's not the arrow, it's the Indian, right? Let's get that Indian really, 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 really solid at his character, at his attitude, at his effort, and creating good habits. And it does not matter what arrow you're using. It doesn't.
I totally agree. And you can go on Amazon, you can find used equipment. I mean, a lot of brand new gloves, they take years to break in. And so you're kind of behind the 8 ball there. So find good used equipment. Hand-me-downs are great as far as gloves go. I never bought a bat either. We always just shared. Everybody used the same bat on the middle school team, the high school team. So again, yeah. What are you doing for their skill and for their character? How do you how do kids that are 7th, 8th grade, how do they grab your attention as a high school coach? I'm sure parents are thinking, well, I got to send them to this showcase so they'll get some attention. I don't want to be lazy here. How are they getting on your radar?
Athleticism is a big thing. It's a big deal. And that might trump everything outside of their character. If they're not being a good teammate and being lazy and throwing a fit when something doesn't go their way, don't really have time for it. But athleticism jumps off the charts to me. And then for me personally, a high baseball IQ is very impressive. So if I see a kid on a baseball field and he does one of those plays where he balances the field by going to a bag that's unoccupied, or just those little subtle nuances that Deb always says, like, you see the game differently than other people. You see things that most people don't even know are there. If they're seeing that game the same way at that age, it's very impressive to me. But I think so often mom and dad think they got to get a kid to a showcase. And it's like, and we've talked about this before on a previous podcast. I look at athletes like, think about it like a car show, right? I can't show my truck right now. It's got a half tank of gas. It's dinged up on one side from baseball and from hitting a rock. And it's like, it's not waxed. It's not dialed in. So like, that's not going to do anything for me if I show that thing. I got to hide that thing, wax it, get it gassed up, get it dialed in. Like, think about that with your athlete. They've got to be at peak performance before you showcase them. Otherwise, they're going to check their name for the wrong reason. So like, mom and dad, dude, like, get them into doing some lessons. If that's where they want to go, like, get them with a really good coach that is not just going to teach them how to dip and jack, but to teach them how to do things the right way. First round of BP, middle away. You should have seen our batting practice yesterday. I'm going on a tangent real quick because I have to. It was the most impressive batting practice I think I've ever seen in my whole life. Like every single one of my babies was hitting rockets the other way. It was incredible. But no, yeah, the show, when it comes to showcases and what catches my eye, like I say, athleticism, high baseball IQ, and being a good teammate.
So you've got a kid that is that they don't have the money to go to a certain showcase, or they don't have the money to go to get private lessons. How do they get seen? How do they grab the attention of a high school coach or a college coach? What can these kids do?
Well, you go to someone in your community that's a good person and has a good heart. Like for me with my club, we have open tryouts all the time. And the first thing I tell mom and dad is, hey, this is what it costs for our club, blank amount of money. With that said, if you can't afford that amount, whatever you can afford, we'll figure it out. We'll scholarship it. We'll figure that out. I've never turned away a kid because of money and never will. And for the folks that say, well, why do you charge X amount? Well, it's kind of to your point with the Sandlots. It's like, like if my time's going to be away from my family, that there's a cost for that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And two, there's equipment. There's these tournaments now for this R18U this summer. It's $2,000 a tournament, dude. It's $2,000 for a 4-game guarantee. It's $500 a game. It's wildly offensive how much these folks are charging. But so, yeah. But no, if you have a passion for this game and you can play it a little bit, like you just got to go ask a coach, hey, can my son try out? We can't afford whatever you're charging. But we can afford $20 a month. Okay.
And
if that dude's got a good heart, he'll do it.
Just like in Alpena, there are people within the community that would throw money to a family that just can't afford, a league, a baseball team, whatever it might be. So those good people are out there. Find the Chad Chops, find the person that, and yeah, just be open and honest. Same thing for me. If there's somebody that comes to me and says, I just can't afford the Sandlot, I can't afford your camp, they're coming. We're never going to turn somebody down based on that. Got to give them the chance. And there are those heart and souls in every community. So don't shy away from it. And then
the next time that happens, text me and I'll sponsor the next kid that says I can't afford it.
Bang. So, likewise.
That. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Go ahead.
Exactly. And that's how it goes, is like, yeah, there's plenty of folks that want to help a kid who's got passion.
Absolutely.
There are plenty of folks, like, you know what I mean? Like our money in our bank account at the end of our lives, that will not be on our mind. The lives and the hearts that we impacted, that will be on our mind. So my wife and I talk about that all the time, dude. It's like money come, money go. Money is to bless others. That's what it's for.
Yep. Bingo. I've always wanted to say this. We interrupt this program to let you know about our one and only sponsor, the Talkin' Shop podcast. We're brought to you by Warstick. Go get you a bat. Go get you a glove. Go get you some socks. Go check out the website. They're awesome. And go battle. Thanks, Warstick, for supporting the pod. And we're back. Chopper had to go. You got to mow the grass and put the foul lines out and get ready for that big game. So for part 2 of the pod today, listener, we brought in, I teased this guy earlier, my coaching mentor, Chopper's doppelganger. They're both equally handsome, equally energetic and passionate about the next generation. And they're really the same person, but I know they come from completely different places as well. So this is a big honor. This is Sean Flikke, aka Flick Money, Snaps, Flick Money in the house. Where are you, man? What city? What state?
You find me in the beautiful town of Stanwood, Washington. I'm about 45 minutes north of Seattle. And it is, cedar trees and the sunshine's trying to peek through our normal gray layer of rainy clouds. And you find my heart full, Coach Ballgame. Thank you for having me. What an honor to be included in a conversation you're having to change youth sports for the better.
Well, I mean, there's not many people where you can vividly remember seeing them for the first time, but I can vividly remember the first time we met. And I was sleeping on a couch in Hermosa Beach. Our mutual friend, Dan Spring, who will also have to get on this podcast because he's another great mentor of mine. He started these baseball camps in Hermosa Beach, California. And he'd gone to college with me. We'd been teammates and bandmates. And you had been a mentor of his as well, far, far before I even knew Dan. But we have camp day one on Monday morning at we got to be there at 7 a.m. And Flick Money rolls in the door about Sunday night, maybe 12:30 in the morning, maybe midnight, somewhere there. Just got in just in time. And I just remember seeing those blue eyes and this huge smile. And it was like, oh, this is gonna be a vibe. this energy that he is just bringing into the door, this unconditional love and this joy that just kind of is spewed from your face. I was like, I think these kids are gonna be fine. And I did a post earlier in the week on my socials. Please go watch it on Coach Ballgame's Instagram. But those weeks and those years, those summers that we spent together, at some point there was this light bulb moment for me of, oh, this is how you coach a kid. And it was by watching you. It was by watching you engage with each kid, come up with nicknames for them by asking them questions, storytelling, the way you could tell a story, man. It's 60 minutes where kids are just chilling out, having a siesta after lunch, and you're engaging them. And then a particular moment that we'll discuss in a few minutes that really turned me around from this militant, passive aggressive, win at all costs, all the toxic stuff that you think about as a rookie coach. I was all of that. So Flick Money, let's start there. You obviously weren't dropped from heaven, and just became the best coach of all time. Where did that come from? Was there a mentor of yours that taught you to love the game and communicate that love in a healthy way?
Oh man, yeah. There's a lineage, Coach. We are in a lineage. There have been so many teachers, the links of teachers, mentors, and coaches who link me to you, and then back in time. My direct influences, of course, my college assistant coach, Dean Stotts, who's
Stanford, by
family.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Stanford University. Coach Stotts and his wife, Kathy, and their family really were a family away from home for me. And seeing him evolve as a coach and a father. He had two kids in the time I was at Stanford, he became a father when I was there, and watching him turn from, this incredible baseball mind, fiery. And of course at NCAA Division I, Pac-12 baseball, it was competitive, and seeing him still have that fire, but as he became a father and as his heart started to sort of grow 3 sizes, and watching him incorporate those two things had a huge impact on me. Coach Marquis, legendary Hall of Fame head coach, watching he put his passion into preparation, how practices were prepared, how the field was set up. That's how he showed his particular care and love. But man, when the lines were down, he was all business. But specifically when we talk about coaching kids, my very first job that wasn't playing minor league baseball was I got hired in Washington, D.C. by a legendary youth coach named John McCarthy.
Johnny Mac.
Johnny Mac also mentored Dan Spring, mentored hundreds, thousands of us who have gone on to coach. And I had never met anyone who had that combination of, he was a knuckleball pitcher both in college pitched in 5 different universities because no one knew how to teach a knuckleball or how to coach him. So he just shopped it year to year from Enterprise State Junior College, worked his way up, and eventually got a spot at South Alabama with the great Hall of Fame coach Eddie Stanky. Hall of Fame player and coach Eddie Stanky was one of his mentors. And Johnny Mack was where I learned the art of the storytelling. You know, that's pure Irish magic right there. You put him in front of a couple hundred kids and parents, and I had never seen anything like it. You know, there's an Irish saying that Johnny Mack's brother loves to say, which is, you know, don't let no, he says exaggeration is for the benefit of the listener, not the teller. So you gotta give creative license when you're telling stories, and you're telling, because you're impacting kids through these stories. That narrative is going to stick in their brains. And so watching him with young people, the things that are important to him, the way that he drove home consistent messages, things like, you know, how may I help you? The 5 most important words in the English language are how may I help you? And I'm watching him say this to 200 kids while he's giving out baseball cards for great eye contact. That all just sunk in, you know, those skills, those chops. But what he was really doing was he was also coaching the parents. Yeah. The parents are in the back, you know, they're behind the bleachers listening to their kids getting this, and they're just soaking it up, loving it. But the subtle messages of how you interact with young people and the way you can set high standards for them, and you can push them to high standards if you are equally passionate about loving them, about telling them you appreciate their effort, about noticing the things that they're doing, about offering gentle corrections rather than, you know, harsh criticism. So he's just a master, and he's still doing it. He's still doing it both on the East Coast, Johnny Mack is, and in the Dominican Republic, where even with questionable Spanish skills, he's one of those people you could, with no language, he could teach a youngster how to play the game passionately. So I come from a great lineage of teachers and mentors.
That's great. So Johnny Mack was your guy, and you and Dan were my guys. And Springer was the first to kind of fill me in on, hey, I learned this from Johnny Mack. I've learned this from Flick Money, but you kind of got to change your lens a little bit. As a young 22-year-old coach, I have no confidence in my voice. I've never done this before. So I attack any kind of disrespect or aggression with the same vibe. I'm going to come louder. I'm bigger. I'm stronger. You should submit to me and do it now. And it just never seemed to work. Maybe for like 0.5% of kids does that firm tone actually work. And he's like, hey, I'm just going to be honest with you. You're coming off a little passive aggressive, and it's not working. I love you. And this is coming from a loving place, but kids might walk away from the game because of your tone. And that was an eye opener. And at first I wanted to quit. I'd be like, I didn't sign up for this. I mean, I've got these young kids and I'm trying to wrangle them. But then his big thing was positive reinforcement, which sounds like, you know, he saw that with Johnny Mack, baseball cards for making those good choices. If any listener that's ever been to any of my camps or sandlots, I mean, this is verbatim. This is what I do. But something that you were really able to do with me is kind of see my talents and then allow me to find my own voice while I was kind of learning from you. I remember you were like, you handed the baton to me, you know, this might've been the first summer, maybe second. And you're like, you're going to tell the Clemente story. You're going to tell Roberto Clemente. And I remember being a little nervous and like being very in tune with every kid that wasn't listening. And then afterwards I'm like, how'd I do, coach? And he's like, you did great. But here's one tip. Look at them in their eyes next time. I'll never forget that. You're like, you got to look at them in their eyes while you're saying the story, while you're telling that. I think the question I have for you is, that came from a place of like love. Like you loved each kid, and because you loved them, you were able to meet them on their own playing field. Who taught you that? Because I know you had a difficult upbringing. So who taught you that love?
Man, that's a great question. So yeah, first of all, I want to acknowledge, your self-reflection about the way that the tools you were bringing to coaching when you first started. In all fairness, if we're going to do the full scouting report, you brought some significant tools, Coach, that cannot be taught. You have from the moment I met you on that couch, it was obvious to me you have the energy of 50 human beings. Okay, and that's something that cannot be taught. Your enthusiasm for life in general, for learning, and for the game of baseball particularly, that can't be taught, and that shines through, and that drove our work together, the learning, and you becoming this incredible mentor, teacher, man, husband, father that you are, all stems from that work ethic, that enthusiasm, that energy, which was infectious. And frankly, having done at that point a few more years of camps than you influenced me in such a positive way, because that energy, I would be so excited. You were like almost like a puppy. The first year, you'd have so much energy coming out of your body. It was like emanating off of you. And that really, if you're 10, 12, 14 years into doing camps, sometimes, it's easy to slip it into third gear when you know your shtick, you know how you're doing it. But it was impossible to slip it into third gear when you were around, brother, because you were in fifth looking for a sixth gear, whether it was there or not at all times. And so,
Let's go.
yeah, you brought a lot to the table. And in terms of the sort of personal philosophy around unconditional love, I was a foster kid when I was young. My mom decided she couldn't take care of me somewhere right around my first birthday, and put me in a foster home. And so I ended up being raised in 9 different homes, but I was adopted at one point, and I was adopted by parents who were disabled. My dad was a Vietnam vet. He was a Silver Star winner, but he was disabled, and I had love around me and a lot of people who loved me. And their journey was very difficult for them and for me. And so there was some inconsistencies, a lot of stops and starts, a lot of waking up in a new house and not knowing quite where I was. And so what I learned, I think, or developed, kids are super resilient, man. We figure it out. And what I figured out is if I could radiate positivity, even from as a youngster, I was more likely just to get my needs met, So I think part of that was a survival mechanism, that just bringing some, waking up and choosing to put a smile on my face, choosing to whatever the day before brought, let's bring the positive energy. And then the articulation about what it means to show unconditional love for a young person. I think I had an empathy. I understood that when kids come to camp, when they show up to a sandlot on day one, what you're seeing is only a very thin part of the story, maybe 10% of who they are and how they're actually feeling. There's an ocean underneath, and it's hard. Life is hard. It's also beautiful. It's also a gift. Those are all true, but life is also a challenge, and kids are bringing in things, carrying them, invisible things that we can't see, and we have no idea about. And I learned that in my own childhood, that I could put on a smile and show up to school, and you would have no idea how difficult a journey I was walking in that moment. And so I tried to bring that every day. And so when I saw a youngster acting out, not listening, back turned, being disrespectful, it was just an intuitive feel that something's up. This is someone who's asking very unskillfully for more love, for more attention, for more something. So there's something that he's asking for, or she's asking for, and we just don't know what it is yet.
I can specifically remember multiple times when those kids would show up and they would have their back turned, or they would be arguing, and my gut instinct was what's wrong with you? And let push-ups, call mom. And then looking at you coming from a completely different place, like almost of, you're almost laughing at that. And not in a detriment, not in a demeaning way whatsoever. You were just taking it in and kind of smiling at the fact that, oh, this is going to be a good relationship we build throughout this week. We're going to have some deep talks. And I was like, I'm flipping out, and Flick's over here like excited to hear this kid's story. So I slowly jumped on board with that. And, this podcast is for coaches and parents that are just starting out or going through these issues with their different kids that they coach. And I mean, you were number one at picking up the depth of each kid and trying to find the different key to unlock each one of them. The Miyagi, the whatever you want to call it, just you really treated coaching as therapy. And then, we happen to be on a baseball field, and sure, that we can teach backspin and line drive swings, but you really coached people, and you coached the heart as opposed to the player. So I just want to thank you for kind of opening my eyes to that. And I think what we built there in my 20s, in Southern California, Dan Spring, and he's still got great camps going in Southern California, spring training baseball. But I mean, he was able to manage these to a T, and he knew exactly how to set up a camp and have different stations going. And he taught me how to really set up the different small stations and manage and run a business. He also came from a place of positive reinforcement and building character. Like, can we teach these kids to love the game and build character? You brought this wisdom, this sage, this master of storytelling aspect, and really connecting with hearts by looking these kids in the eye, unlocking each one of their locks with a specific key based on things you've learned. And then once I started to find my voice, I just brought that puppy dog energy. And that's 18 years ago now. This will be my 19th summer camp of working. And I think I fell in love with coaching because of you and Dan and the way you approached it. Something?
Well, hey,
yeah,
Coach,
go ahead.
I just wanted to reflect also, because I can almost hear some of my my coaches from when I was a kid. Maybe you can hear some of the voices of those coaches from where you grew up. That old world style of coaching, that sort of, meet disrespect with push-ups, that has value. It's not it's not that it has no value, and it's not that it has no place. Those are tools in the tool belt for specific kids and for specific situations. What I have come to appreciate is the nuance of coaching. Maybe in the old days, if you could make assumptions that every kid had two parents at home, they got, the requisite 9 hours of sleep, there was food on the table, there was no financial stress. We're talking like kind of the way I suppose the 1950s might have looked in a lot of parts of America, Andy Griffith. Then you could come with that energy as a coach and set a culture of discipline and hard work. And I think those are really critically important things as a person, as a young male growing up. I needed those things, and I appreciate my old school coaches who brought those things. But I realized there's more dimension to a human being than just that piece. So if that's the only, it's like playing in a band. Someone's got a great instrument, but they're just playing the same note over and over and over. It's not always more cowbell isn't always what's required. More discipline, more more structure isn't always what's required. Sometimes there is this other component of the healing of the human heart, and the human experience needs human medicine, care. Sometimes they need an arm around the shoulder. Sometimes they need, consensually, this is 2023, but some kids, we forget that some kids they may not have had a hug in 2 weeks for whatever the circumstances are. And as human beings, you know, that just there's all kinds of research that shows what happens to us when we don't get that level of attention and care, especially in the developmental years. So it's just about fleshing out a tool belt that has all of these tools that has nuance to it and appreciates the complexity of the human experience. And for me, when you said you saw me smiling when I would see those kids, I just thought, what a beautiful challenge we're about to step into. We're going to have to figure this out together. I don't know what the combination is, but let's learn. I just thought for me, that was a great challenge.
Yeah, a specific challenge that I'm trying to write a book, and you know, I'm most of what I do and why I do it is because of the lineage of my mentors, and the visual that just stands out in my mind is one of these kids that you were excited to embark on the challenge with. Just wasn't listening to anything I said, and was actually being disrespectful to others, and there could have been some fists thrown. Even it was anger, and I was kind of at a loss. And you took the kid aside, you put your arm around him, you spent quality time. I mean, hours together where you're just sitting. Not much is being said, but you're showing this love, this unconditional love, and that was the light bulb for me. That visual. Nothing you could have said after me watching that could have. I mean, I would have picked up some of it, but I wouldn't have understood it as a 22-year-old coach. But just the visual and kind of watching what you did and your body language and your tone. That's what spoke to me as far as, well, that's what's speaking to him. Is this coach has just got a body language of come on, man, give me a hug. I'm here for you. I'm here to love on you, and figure out, you know, why aren't you getting those 9 hours of sleep? You know, what is going on at home? And it's definitely something I had to fight yesterday. You know, I don't think the urge is ever gone for me to go Andy Griffith 1950s discipline push-ups. When somebody is acting up, that there's an urge there. It's primal or whatever it is, but the volume has gone way down on that as I've grown and matured. So it comes up daily in my walk. So that was a moment. I don't know if do you recall that specific moment? I think there were multiple times you had to put out fires.
Yeah, I remember the child, and I remember the moment. And you know, first of all, yeah, when the lash outs were in anger, the child was showing a lot of anger. And one thing that I knew in my own experience, and I think is true of a lot of men in general, is that when we're very uncomfortable with the feeling of hurt, like emotional hurt, pain, you know, sadness, those are really difficult for the male. They're difficult as a human, but I think women being natural healers and nurturers, there's a way that their systems are more adept at processing those, because it's so important for helping, you know, babies and young children and growing us into adults to be able to process that stuff. I think males, we really struggle in general, but definitely I noticed in my experience that if I'm feeling hurt or sadness, it likes to rewire to anger. I feel, because anger there's a motivating, there's a physical release of energy. It's a proactive force, whereas sadness, hurt feels like it's happening to you, and you're kind of stuck in it, and it's really difficult. So when I saw that child lashing out in anger, it just intuitively made sense to me that, okay, this is a very hurting child. So now, is it hurting because he's getting, you know, is is there a lack of something, or is there too much of something, right? Because it's got to be, something's out of balance. So is he getting too much discipline at home? Is he being told too often what he's not doing right? Is he being told, you know, is someone in his house really noticing all the things that are bothering them about this child, and he's getting that on load? Is he getting too much physical discipline in his home? So there's that's one body of questions. Or the other is he getting not enough of something? You know, is dad working hard to put that nice house, nice roof over the head, but is gone 80 hours a week as a result? You know, is mom feeling that absence of dad, and maybe trying to cover it with a social life that's causing her to be away from the youngsters' space and time. You're just trying to peel away the layers under an onion and understand where's the lack and where's the or maybe where's the excess. But a child often doesn't, they won't be able to articulate that for themselves. So now it becomes, and how do I get that information from them, right? So is this a child that I can I remember you asking for help, and I remember going and sitting down on the bleachers, and the first thing is I had to figure out what's the physical proximity that I need to sit away from this child so that they can feel, first of all, safe, because no one is going to allow anything to happen if their nervous system, their mind doesn't feel safe. So do they feel safer to have me closer to them, or do they feel safer to have a little space for me? So just, it's an art. There's an art to it of just trying to understand, okay, physical proximity. Okay, is this a kid who restores their energy in quiet, or is this a child that restores their energy in extroversion, conversation, being connected with and ask questions about, right? So it's just one like literally 6-inch step at a time to try to figure out that combination. What's the combination lock to this child feeling safe, to this child having a great experience, and eventually feeling some joy in this baseball camp experience. When, remember, these summer camps, as you know, Coach, sometimes it's the best childcare available for the week for the family, and that child may not really love baseball. They may not know about baseball. They might be feeling insecure that there's 30 kids on the field that are better than they are, and so and dad or mom or auntie dropped me off here this morning, and I don't really want to be here, or I'm feeling like, the rest of my family went on vacation. I'm feeling a little neglected, whatever it is. We got to try to figure that out and provide the experience that's going to hopefully unlock some joy for them for that time. So that was for me, I'm watching you run your field. I've got your youngster on the bleacher. I have a distinct memory of it. And what you had in spades still to this day is that energy and that enthusiasm was just ringing out, right? And for a child who's hurting and feeling a combination of confusing things on the inside, enthusiasm and energy can sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, look at, that in and of itself can feel intimidating, or I could feel out of place. So that was, so my experience with them, I just remember sitting there and just, I'm going to give this is going to be a nice slow roll towards connection. And it may not happen today, but I'm going to let him know that I'm not leaving him. I'm here. If you need something, I'm right here with you. And then I'm just going to start the very gentle, asking some questions. Let me ask them some open-ended questions. This is important for coaches out there. Give kids a chance to speak. So if you ask a yes or no question, you get a yes or no answer, and then you're right back to where you started, and that's no progress, right?
Yeah.
So hey, what do you love to do in your free time? Kids love talking about what they love. What's your favorite show? Who's your favorite character? Let's try to learn through some open-ended questions that give me a chance to find out who they are. And that's what I remember doing with that youngster. And we found a connection point around a comedy movie that we both liked. And I remember doing some, now, and this is something you're great at, which is, okay, now that I know I've got that in, let's do some character work here. Maybe I can drop a skillful line from the movie in the right moment, and that kid catches, then it may not even be in that conversation with them. Maybe I'm doing it, an hour later when we're doing a different drill, but I use a line from that show, and now that kid's like, they remembered, that coach remembered. Connection, right? And I'm important enough for them to remember, which, oftentimes for a child, that's exactly what they need.
That's great, man. And I mean, I don't know if you were conscious of it or not, but just the way you managed that whole situation. Every coach that was there, assistant coach, junior coach, me, we picked up on it. And I know you were fully present in that one child's life and their heart, but just the way you went about it, you made all the coaches notice more nuances. The next day they're going to be a more well-rounded coach. And for me, I do like to control, and I like things snappy and tight. And when there's one kid not allowing that to happen, it really bothered me, and it threw me off early on. I've gotten a lot better with that. I know there are times when I've got 30 kids and I can't just wander off and love on one particular kid for a couple hours. And maybe there's coaches out there with the same issues, but I can still run my practice or bring an assistant coach on that can really help me with the P's and Q's, so I can spend a little more time with this kid's heart.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, I have an idea for you too. This is a Johnny Mac one-on-one right here. If you're leading a practice or you're responsible for a large number of kids and you don't have the time to peel off for that one conversation, put a pin in that moment around like later, at some point when we're going to get into that conversation. But Johnny Mac is the master of engaging the wildest, the loudest, the kids the child that's having the hardest time. Johnny Mac is a master at engaging them in becoming his assistant. Let's find something for them to do constructively with the energy. Then if I can't peel off and get to the root of it and start doing that kind of personal connection work, then let's engage it. And you're going to be my, my assistant director of field operations. You're going to be my, responsible for director of, hydration operations. You're going to make sure I need 4 Gatorades to the field. They're in the back of my car. Here's my keys, right? Like, let me find something for you to do where you can feel valued, you feel seen. We're using that energy in a positive way. And if the child's too young, you're like, I'm not giving that kid keys to my car. That kid's 6 years old, and they might pop in there and put the thing in gear, and I'm parked on a hill. I understand those fears. Then the other thing I saw Johnny do often was he would just have them, you're going to stay right with me in my shadow. I want to take you all over the field. And he would be like, if he's still running the practice, right? So if we're going to do an infield drill, he's talking to the child and he's talking to the group. So he's like, watch this. We're going to do infield. I'm going to teach them, alligator, vacuum. That's what we're working on. When I go to you, I'm going to ask you, what do these arms represent? And you're going to say alligator. You got it? And then kid might be like 5 or 6 years old. So now he's teaching. He's got 30 kids there. He's teaching the infield drill, and then he turns to the little dude who was having a hard time, and he's like, tell me what these arms represent. And the little kid's like, alligator. And he gets everyone to cheer, let's cheer for this guy. And they all, you would give him an attaboy. And so he puts him in his shadow and sort of makes him his assistant. And that's the way he'll make that connection. And so there's different ways you can do it depending on your responsibilities at the time.
No doubt, man. And a lot of times those kind of kids, when you elevate them to some sort of coaching status, man, their whole countenance turns, and you're like, man, I need you to help these other kids learn how to do this. That's a great idea. I'm totally gonna use that next week at my sandlot. But man, these kids, and I'm seeing it now. 18 years into my coaching, some of these kids that I coach now, they're either in college or out of college, in pro ball, or adults and getting married and having their own kids. But when I have a player that ages out and wants to be a coach, man, they're so excited about that. You elevate them just a little bit to junior coach, even though they're carrying water coolers and they're hitting fungos. They're so pumped to have that kind of status, and that's telling. When you've got a kid that's making bad choices and being disrespectful, and then you elevate them to some place of status, that's what they're yelling for. They're screaming to be valued and to have the spotlight on them, and to have that attention. And I think that's a great way to nurture that need is, well, instead of giving you all the attention, and maybe that attention is negative from me, hey, let's give all these kids your attention and put you in this place of superiority, so to speak. So yeah, Johnny Mac,
it's masterful. And
Yeah.
Johnny Mack has an entire summer camp staff of kids who were the problem kid when they were 5 and 6. They were
Crazy.
that kid that you and I are talking about. They are so loyal to him. They would run through a wall for him. Many of them have never developed a love for baseball. What they developed a love for was that relationship with Johnny Mack. What they developed a love for was the one place they could come and have a little bit of status and feel a little bit important. Is that ball field. And so they are in it for life. And many of them, you know, will not or did not go on to make their own high school varsity teams, but they are incredible in that setting, in that venue with little ones, because they now understand. The student becomes the teacher, and they see themselves and they get to work with themselves, their own 5 and 6 year old selves, as they become 11, 12, 13, 14, right? And it is such a beautiful process to watch. And I think you hit the nail right on the head there, which is, I think a lot of coaches fear, well, if I reward this behavior, what am I doing for them, right? I don't want to reward this bad behavior, but you're not rewarding bad behavior. What you're doing is you're listening and you're honoring a deeper need that they have, right? Yeah. So it's a sort of a, you know, if you've ever studied any psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We have our physical needs, our physiological needs, water and sleep and rest, but you work up the hierarchy, and the emotional need for a sense of belonging is really, really fundamental, and it underlies any ability to go on and succeed and have, you know, have a good life, is this sense that I'm important and I'm valued. And so what you're doing is you're actually meeting a deeper need. I think a lot of us were raised to fear rewarding bad behavior. I know I was. But you got to get past the idea that it's good or bad behavior. It's just behavior, and it's behavior that's belying a much deeper psychological and emotional need. So I've watched masters work, and now you are a master, coach. And I just appreciate the work you're out there doing. And I've watched your podcast and listened to you, as you said many times, it's a work in progress, man. We're all learning, you know. I don't know how to live this life. Do you?
No,
you know, we're just
daily. And this weekly conversation I have with Chopper and guests that come on, it's food for the week. I'm a better coach on a Wednesday just because of having this talk, you know, weekly on a Tuesday. Something we talk about, and I think we'll close with this theme for the day, is we talk about processing failure. A lot. And Dallas Braden was just on, and he said, you know, the successful ones, they process failure better than everybody else. And that is very true with baseball. But I think it's in all walks of life, because I think every day you're either going to feel like a failure or the world has come down on you in some way. And you've got to be able to react positively, negatively, some way. Tell the listener, because I still remember this and it speaks to me. We talked about you processing a lot of failure as a kid, living in 9 different homes, foster homes, and kind of teaching yourself empathy the hard way. Your final college baseball appearance, walk us through, because you told the story many times to many kids and coaches. You're at Stanford, your senior year of college. Talk us through that moment, and then how'd you respond, and kind of how did you grow from that moment as a man?
Yeah. So for a little context, I was a walk-on at Stanford, right? I got into school. I hand wrote my application. I don't know if you could do this in 2023, but in 1991. I did the best I could with the tools I had, hand wrote my application. I got into school. I called the baseball office. I introduced myself. I said, you know, I want to come down and walk on. I'm an outfielder. And the assistant coach was very kind. And he said, congratulations. This is a life-changing experience for you down here. But I just want you to know, we just had 11 guys drafted this week in the major league draft. So it's not a program that's generally, you know, real receptive to walk-ons, just the level we're playing at. But you're welcome to come try, you know. And so that was the door cracked open that I needed. You know, I spent the first few weeks in sweatpants when everyone else on the team was in, you know, decked out new practice unis, brand new Mizunos, new gloves. And so it had been a journey for me to first, get a uniform, to make the team. I got 1 at bat as a freshman. I got 3 as a sophomore. I got my first start as a junior when we were ranked #1 in America. Played Mark Kotze and the mighty Cal State Fullerton Titans, who would only lose 9 games that entire college season. I believe they finished 73-9 and won the national title. And so I got my first start that year as a junior, and so but I didn't play well. I went 0 for 3, bungled to play in the outfield, so my window as a walk-on closed pretty quickly. Didn't see the field again for the rest of the year. So my senior year, I see it all. I see the writing on the wall here. I've spent thousands of hours, and I'm coming down to the end of what has been my little boy dream, to sign and play and play big league baseball. And I just love my teammates, Stanford. I played with a bunch of great guys, and we got a really good team, and we go on a tear at the end of the season. We win the last 17 straight to close the season, and we host a regional. The regional comes to our park, and Florida State, J.D. Drew shows up with the mighty Florida State Seminoles, and Cal State Northridge with Adam Kennedy. And Robert Flikke, who played for the Braves for a long time. It was a great regional, packed with good players and teams, and we won it. We beat Mississippi State, I remember, and we win, and we beat Cal State Northridge, and then we've got to play Florida State, and it was just a 4-4 ball game in the 9th, and a pinch hitter hits an opposite field home run to win it in the 9th for Florida State. And so we now have a loss. We got to come back. We got to win 2 straight games to get to the College World Series, which we had been to the year before. So we had some experience in these elimination games. And at that point, I'm playing a little bit, DH in here and there, but had been our team's pinch runner for a number of years. I was, a pretty good athlete, faster than I looked. And so we got into a tight ball game. We were down 4-3 in the 9th. I remember Jody Garrett was up to bat, who was an 8-year big leaguer, great player. And Cale Carter had got to second base, was on, so that would be our tying run. And I was a step back quicker than him. So Coach Marquis, I was also an outfielder, so was he. So Coach Marquis put me into pinch run. We needed the run. It was the 9th inning, 2 outs. And I go in, get my legs loose, ready to go. I'm on second base. The crowd's, it's loud. It's crowd's into it. Everyone's up. Jody's up to bat. And they bring in Robbie Crabtree, the relief pitcher, who was a great pitcher, nasty split finger fastball. And he comes in, does his warm-up pitches, and I'm so fired up and just feel like Jody's going to hit a rope and everything's going to be great. And I go to get my lead off of second base, crowd screaming, and I must not have heard our third base coach very well. Adam Kennedy slips in behind me, and the pitcher wheels to pick, which I wasn't going anywhere, so it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like I was leaning or anything. I just go to dive back in, but Adam Kennedy, that dirty, rotten scoundrel of a human being, had so thoroughly blocked second base. When I go to dive back in, I try to punch through where his hamstring and his calf are touching each other because he's crouched down to try to get my hand to the base. I get picked off second base, brother, to end the inning, the game, our season, and my college career, all face down in the dirt at second base at Sunken Diamond in what can only be described as hard. That was a hard moment, man.
Golly, man. I'm sure you still have dreams about that day, man.
Oh my God. So many, so many different things that I could have done differently. Just probably should have suspected that they were going to try to keep me close. But I was so fired up. I was just locked in, and ready to take off and go. But of course, I've replayed it a million times. But the one thing that I've come to, I've got peace in my heart with it. Number one, obviously, I'm a father now, and I've come to peace with it because I feel that if our season was going to end, it wasn't in the cards for us to be in the College World Series that year. In a strange way, I felt uniquely prepared to be the person to take on. Not that I did it consciously or even unconsciously, but later I realized I love those guys so much, if someone needed to be the one that was going to make the last out, that it was going to end that dream, then I had gone through so much as a kid. You know, my resilience was really high when it comes to emotional bounce back. And so it was, I had a very, very difficult, about an hour when after that happened, where I ran off the field, I remember, and I got dressed and I left the clubhouse. I just couldn't look my teammates in the eyes, to be honest with you. I felt so hurt and sad that our season was over, and that for our seniors, that our career was over. And I got out of there before anyone could get in and get dressed. They were still having the team meeting. I got in my little vehicle, my Blazer, found this kind of Greasy Spoon restaurant, a few miles from campus, and went in and sat down at this lunch counter. And there was next to me, there was an old guy, and I don't want to make assumptions, but he vibed like a homeless guy. He kind of had the outer shell of someone who had been living out in the elements. And he had hustled up enough money that day for himself to get himself a hot meal and a cup of coffee. And he was sitting at that counter, and he started chatting me up. And it took me about five minutes to sit there and hear some of his experience before I realized it's a game. It's a beautiful game. It's a game that has given me so much. I appreciate it. But this guy had dealt with real world difficulties and suffering at a level that I had not. And it put things into perspective in a hurry. And I honestly felt like he was kind of an angel that was just dropped in my path, because it helped me process that failure very, very quickly, put things into that big perspective. So
I can imagine. Well, I mean, and for a kid, growing up, just being passed from family to family, house to house, I can imagine it was not very easy for you to process another failure or another, I'm not good enough for this, or I'm not good enough for that. But man, oh man, as a student of the Flikke way of coaching, you exude this innate ability to overcome anything. And that is just another specific example of the whole team is on your shoulders, and you are the one that, hey, I'll take the bullet here. If it has to go, I'd rather it be me. But the way you're able to learn from the failures, I think that's what really makes you the man you are. You also didn't go down looking. You went down aggressive, which also speaks to me. Like, you were ready to get that bigger lead, that bigger jump on that ground ball through the 5-hole to get home to tie that game. Like, there was this aggressive nature to it. Adam Kennedy was on the pod earlier. I wish I would have asked him. I know he remembers that moment, but he, blocking that base and keeping you away. I had no idea about the man in the restaurant that, the angel that gave you some perspective. But all of these battles that you've gone through, and you'll continue to have battles that you'll have to overcome, and failures you have to process. But it has worked for the greater good, man. It has worked for the thousands of kids you've coached, and then the hundreds of me's that you've mentored, not even trying to, just by playing cards with you, and playing music with you, and just being around you while you tell the Jim Abbott story. All those failures had a purpose. All of the hiccups had a purpose, and it was for the greater good. So you're the man. You're my coach ball game, buddy.
Oh, brother, you have no idea how good that makes my heart feel to hear you say that. It's when I say it's an honor to watch you doing your work out in the world, and to see how you have evolved the work and the tools, and how you've turned unconditional love and that message into what you've turned it into, and the way that you engage kids. I appreciate so much. I've wanted to thank you for a long time for working with kids of different abilities, for working with kids who bring different challenges to the ballpark, whose struggles seen and unseen. I mean, you are just doing and spreading the love of baseball. It's an honor, and hearing you say that does so much good for my heart. And I agree with you. You know, the juiciest, the part of life that is where we grow, right? Is that soil is there's a lot of it's a lot of decomposing failures and hurts and heartbreaks and things that didn't go our way and unmet expectations and assumptions that turned out to be totally, all that is the soil from which, you know, the beauty of life, beautiful flowers, springtime flowers grow. And you know, without getting too soft on you, you know, I just feel so grateful to be a part of that journey for youngsters, for young coaches. And I'm still in it myself as a coach, and I'm still looking to mentors, and I'm still looking for ways. And I consider you, and I think this is important for the ego, that the ego doesn't get to a place where I sort of arrived. I'm now watching you through the eyes of a student, and you're doing things that I had never dreamed of. And I just think it's, this is the good stuff, brother. And it's an honor.
Oh, I love you, man.
I love you too.
I see you in Bainbridge Island, May 21. Let's take the ferry over there. We got a sandlot, Bainbridge Island, Washington. I'm also going to do some stuff with MLB on the May 18th, 19th, and 20th in the Seattle greater area. So I gotta see you, man. It's my first trip to Washington, so we will
you tell me what time you want me there. How many buckets of balls, sorry, can I carry for you?
Yeah.
And you got me unbridled, brother.
Oh, buddy. Well, there'll be what's your teammate from Stanford? You'll have to tell that story at my sandlot. The
Jay
worm.
Pesci, the worm.
Yeah.
I hope wherever he is right now, I hope he just got a little shiver down the back of his neck. And that's a great story. I mean, I was a walk-on, but that's a walk-on story. That's Rudy for baseball. You know, the Daniel Nava, the Jay Pesci's, those stories of the guys that just come from so far behind the pack, you know, and take the lead. You know,
oh, well, you'll have to do that, and you'll have to bring a guitar for 2-Ton Harry Gorilla, buddy. I got to hear that at one of my sandlots in Washington. So count on it. I'll send you everything. But thanks, buddy. Thanks for being my co-host today. Chopper had to go hit the field, so you as expected, you delivered, and the listeners they're gonna love this one.
Oh man, well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm wishing Chopper and his team good luck here in the playoffs. And I'm sorry that I missed him, but yeah, this is the good stuff, brother. Thank you so much for having me.
You the man. Folks, we'll see you next week, but send this one around. This was therapy here on how to deal with the problem child and how to dissect all the nuances of coaching from, I mean, the guy that taught me everything I know, literally, just by watching him tell some stories and engage kids and love on kids. So, what do you got to close us out, Flick? Something for the listener, the one thing that they all must leave with today. You got anything?
Yeah, it's not an original thought. I heard it early in my career. I'm sure we've all heard it in some form or another, but I'll just say that your players will not care how much you know until they have a felt sense of how much you care. And that felt sense is going to look different for every single one of them. So welcome to coaching.
Yeah, they'll turn their ears on once they know you love them, and once they know you care for them. So we always close out the shop with a little bang. So let me hear your best bang, Coach.
Bang!
That's bang from Washington. All right, see you, folks.